Happy Friday, everybody. Clemente has rugged our Twitter listeners because he promised 9-hour Nick. But Nick is on the first little vacay that he's taken in years at this point. He's doing a whopping 2 days off today and Monday, going on a little weekend trip. So we'll have a good time with him. Well, without him, I should say. How's everyone doing this morning? Spencer, how you doing, amigo?
I'm doing good. I'm a little sad. I come back to the show. I missed one day of the show, and I open up Twitter in the morning and I see everyone's like, "Oh, it's the best show of the Nifty portal ever." Right? Well, it couldn't have been the fucking best show of the Nifty portal ever because I wasn't on it. I want you to know. I think that's an important. We just got to clear the air there, get it out of there. But no, I'm glad you guys had the Rug Radio guys on. Excellent. Little people know that before I was on this show, I was on that show. So really, obviously, great friends with that team, great people, and great vibes to start the day. I started running a strategy late last night, and I haven't run a real serious at size strategy in a while. And I'm excited. I'm hyped for the day. I'm cooking. Things are good. The sky is bright. I wouldn't know because I'm inside trading.
Well, there you go. I want to hear all about that strategy. Kicks, how's it going, man? How's your Friday?
Phenomenal, dude. Really looking forward to the weekend. Maybe trade some hamsters. We'll see what happens.
Well, we got to talk about the hamsters. I mean, fine, let's just dive into the hamsters. So I guess betting on Hamster Racing has gone viral on crypto Twitter, which makes a lot of sense because it's gambling related. Easy. What exactly is the story here?
Oh, yeah, this was wild. So the Bodogos Discord's been hyperactive recently, which is incredible, and I love to see it. Somebody shared this hamster stream, I think they had 35, 40 concurrent viewers at the time that they shared it. The token was like 2 or 3 cents at the time, this hams token. And what happens is there's 6 hamsters. They literally run in a straight line. Like the path that the racetrack is, I would say maybe 2 feet long, and they just have to cross the finish line. So you see these hamsters run back and forth, trying to cross the finish line. Multiple times the hamster gets right to the end and then actually turns around. So it's it's a real cliffhanger moment. And they stream all the races. So they stream this race. It lasts a minute, 2 minutes tops. And then they give the hamsters about an hour break. And then they bring them back. So they have records, stats, leaderboards. They Twitch stream it all. When it first got shared in the Bodogos Discord, like I said, about 40 concurrent streamers. Throughout the day yesterday, it got as high as 1,000 active viewers at one point, which overloaded the servers, crashed the website that was streaming it. Then people started calling it a rug, saying that they were looping races and the same hamster won every time. So what the devs did was they went to the local PetSmart and bought new hamsters and streamed this and showed that they were buying new hamsters and brought them back. And we're like, all right, here's the deal. Our servers got buffed. We ended up getting stuck with this loop. So we're going to get new hamsters and race them instead. On top of this, then we saw The Block, we saw Decrypt, and a few other news sources pick this up in full. And they have a hamster token. So the way that they're doing it is you can bet with this BNB coin called hams on the races and actually get paid for it. But they take a small percentage off the top and reward it to their hams token holders. And right now, I think they're on pace to reward 40 grand to all token holders. They're a kickback. The token's at almost $1. It saw a high of 90 cents.
Are you kidding me?
No, 90 cents right now. I think it's at 80 right now. But like I said, the Bodogos Discord pulled this up when it was 2 or 3 cents. And we're like, yeah, I think this goes. And then it hit 30. And then you see that big drop after 30 right at the start where they said that it was rigged. And then the team came out and was like, it's not rigged, and showed all this proof. And now it's just been absolutely cruising. So it was all over the timeline. And it was one of the things when I first started seeing people on the timeline showing the hamsters that they were betting on, I was like, oh, I'm not going to left curve this. And just bought a bag of the hams token. I was like, I'm going to just buy this. Got in at 12 cents, and I'm still holding it right now. So I was like, this is one of those things where people want a new meme coin. They want something fun. And everyone's just talking about gambling on hamsters, which is one of the crazier things I've seen in the crypto space.
Kicks, did you get in on this?
No, I heard about it yesterday, and I thought it was the stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my life. But I right curved it too hard. It's absolutely actually phenomenal. I'm just kidding. I saw it yesterday. I thought it was really cool. I was talking to my business partner, and he was talking about this one hamster that's 3 and 300. Like, just
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Shout out Charlie, or CY, I think is the champ's name. He's
Yeah.
8 and 235.
Yeah, just not a good
CK.
horse to bet on.
But those 8 times, you know, that so the odds must be weighted, right? Like
no,
they're not. That's the best part.
There's no weighted odds.
You're just straight line betting a guy that's 8 and 240. Just with the 5.
Well, everyone keeps saying it's going to revert to the mean eventually. So people hammer CK bets because they're like, eventually he's going to catch up to the other hamsters. Like, he's way too undervalued here at 8 and 325.
Ooh, but what Kix just said is that it doesn't, like, it's not weighted based on performance or based on betting. Like is it? Like,
no,
are there
but
different
they're saying
payouts?
like eventually he's going to revert to the mean and get 200 straight wins. Like, even though it's flat value, they're still like, this hamster's undervalued because he's so bad that he has to eventually get good.
You know, that's kind of when I think about a lot of PFP projects, right? These founders, they're really so bad that eventually they've got to be good. Then that thesis is played out swimmingly.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's not going to work either way. Signal, do you have interest in betting on hamsters? Wait, so a race starts in 3 minutes?
It looks like 3 minutes. We have a race
real.
number 1076.
Easy.
Hold on, Theo, there's 400 people waiting for this right now.
That's the least surprising thing that I've ever heard. I mean, I'm waiting for it. We have 125 listeners on our YouTube stream and counting. That attack that on. They're ready to watch
Discord
this.
bots that will alert you 5 minutes before the race right now and give you like odds and which hamsters and all that stuff. Like, people have gone full hamster curve on this, where they're like, this is it. This is the move that we're betting on hamsters. It's a bear market, but not now. It's a hamster market.
Easy. Can you place a bet? Are you still
Let
in?
me check. Yeah, I just hold the token. So like, I haven't actually bet on them. I've only watched like 1 or 2 races. Let me mute the site because I don't want to run it up. Let me see if I need to connect here. Yeah, maybe we throw a little cash on this.
I'm up for it.
Less than a
A
hamster
little bit of cash and a hamster. Any other? What are the names of the contenders? You got Charlie.
Let's see. Hamsters. Yeah, we got Rocky, Charlie, Oliver, Teddy, and Buster, Milo. Oh, our boy CK's in it. He's now 8 and 344.
That's my favorite part, is that there's one hamster that he just doesn't want to do it. He's like, I'm not into this. It's not my thing. Kix, you're muted. You're muted.
Yeah, and it's not like horse racing where you're getting better odds. Like these people betting on CK are just like betting this exact same odds as the best hamster in the fucking world. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I already saw someone post on Twitter that they're taking inspiration from this idea, and they're going to PetSmart and buying animal or like insects that will fight to the death, and you'll be able to bet on that. So there's pretty much a new kind of like, you know, peacock fighting-esque meta happening in crypto right now. We'll see how it plays out, but you know, I wouldn't be surprised if Rollbit acquires them, to be honest with you.
Well, what I was going to say is, in all seriousness, this actually might just be the natural progression of shitcoins, because they previously were literally just a ticker. Like, they literally were just like Pepe, and a single image for the coin. They might just be integrated in various gambling games, I suppose, moving forward. Karate Combat is a martial arts league that has started, and it seems like it's gaining traction. I think they operate out of Florida, and they are built with a crypto token integration, and the fighters can get bonuses with the crypto token. But I don't know, can you gamble on Karate Combat with the crypto token? Is that how it works? Clemente, if you can look that up, because that
is how it works, just for context. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense
with those. And they sponsor everything. So if you've been seeing it or watching it, their background behind the Karate Combat like arena is a city overlaid on the walls. The walls all have like visual aspects to them, like monitors basically. And it's all Kanpai Panda stuff. Like, they have panda posters, panda billboards. One of the buildings has a panda logo. But yeah, you can use the karate token that Kanpai Pandas earn to bet on Karate Combat.
So that, first of all, that makes a lot of sense. And yes, I saw that Kanpai Pandas have done a great job of integrating themselves into the MMA community, really in a way that I don't know if people are fully processing. Like, they are deeply, deeply integrated. Like, the biggest names in the sport are interacting with them. But I think it makes a lot of sense. Shitcoins is just gambling to begin with. Oh, we got the race. It would make sense for shitcoins to be integrated with actual gambling. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we have the hamster race on the screen. Oh, looks like this is a landslide victory by. Well, that was an easy one. Only one of the hamsters moved.
Yeah, so that's the issue. Is you see stuff like that, but there's many times where they'll get right to that finish line and then just turn around. Like,
yeah,
you get
a lot of room. I see a lot of room to improve on this model. First of all, their lighting slightly off. Second of all, I think you can make some more interesting mazes. Like, I would like kind of like a different map a day, you know, and maybe certain hamsters perform better on like the cheese map, and they perform a little worse on another map. So, I mean, this is a good foundation. We'll see where it goes.
So
there was some
apparently,
oh, good.
Sorry, I'll say apparently on the money front, this platform is having an average of $2,000 bet volume in each race. So this was about 12 hours ago. They have like multiple races per day. So the daily bet volume is coming in about 32,000, and the monthly bet volume would be almost $1 million. Now, obviously, this is only day one, but the monthly estimated revenue, which would be about $50,000, of which the majority of that would go back to hams holders. In theory, this is all in theory, obviously, but that's some serious money for a day one business.
Yeah, I mean, this is crypto Twitter math. You know, these are people that bought the coin for a penny, and they're trying to convince you that hamster racing online is going to be you know, $50 million.
Pickleball scaling. What's going to stop hamster racing, baby? Like, at the end of the day,
dude, who knows, dude? I just think the race has got to get a little bit more exciting. Like, we just saw that race is, you know.
Well, Kicks, the dark side of this yesterday, someone was like, all right, new idea. Put a snake behind them and watch how fast they run. And I was like, Jesus, that is dark. But yeah,
Panthers are really dumb. They're not going to run any faster. I can guarantee it.
They're just going to get eaten by a snake. That's a very easy crypto Twitter idea. Do you guys know the show Real Sports with Brian Gumbel on HBO? Well, it's a classy. I see the youngins shaking their head. It's a very classy sports documentary show, deep dive on HBO. If you don't know who Brian Gumbel is, he's like a broadcasting, TV media legend. And I'm just picturing, like, I guess, I thought Brian Gumbel was better known than he actually is. I guess maybe it's a younger crowd. But for the few people that do know who Brian Gumbel is, they'll think that this is funny. I'm just picturing him being like, hamster racing, the new sport that's taken the crypto world by storm. You thought that crypto tokens were I don't know. Like, look, that's a good joke if you know who Brian Gumbel is, but I'm not going to develop it because nobody cares. Before we dive into the show, JackGK has his hand raised. Jack, do you have some contributions for the hamster racing?
I do. I definitely think we're going to see performance enhanced hamsters very, very soon. I think the favorite is going to definitely be called out for just be chock full of Adderall or, blood doping, the whole thing. Like, if enough money gets pumped into a sport, then the drugs come second, and I'm done talking.
That's definitely a really dark joke that I appreciate there, Jack, that we're going to start pumping these hamsters with PEDs. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to talk about the flurry of new paid mints hitting the NFT market. We're going to talk about the conclusion of Yuga Labs Heavy Metal Season 1, and then finally what to make of the United States launching FEDNOW. The instant payment system. What a juicy thing to dive into. We'll kick things off with the weather report with Signal. Signal, please take it away.
Yeah, GM everyone, happy Friday. It is Friday, the 21st of July. Market volume might be meager, but the hamsters are obviously where the money is. You got market volume at 16.3, Blur with the line share at 10.5, OpenSea at 3.3. Onto leaders, not much change in numbers. You got Apes hanging out at like 32 million. You got Mutants just shy of 6, Punks just shy of 50, D-God just pulling back down at 8.5, while Azuki pulling back even more, now down at 5.4. These could go sub 5 this weekend potentially. Captains at 6.1, and Pudgies has broken 4 and is hanging out at 4.1. Over the past 24 hours, we got OpenSea has launched deals. This is going to be a new feature that allows for over-the-counter trading. So you'll now be able to do swaps without being scammed. You can either do a simple swap, or you can actually bundle different kinds of NFTs and also do a deal like that. On to undisclosed sources over in Wolfgame Land, we have heard that it's very likely to be launching on Pixel Vault's Reboot platform And this will be one of the featured titles, as well as obviously Battle Plan, which is the big PV game, which is set to come out either this year or next. Not quite sure on the final date for that. Talking about FEDNOW, well, the US Federal Reserve has launched it. It is now available to Americans to send and receive funds in seconds, and they can do this for 24/7. Welcome to technology. Well, welcome to crypto technology, Americans, if you're going to be using FEDNOW. Highly anticipated. Got 41 banks, including JP Morgan and Bank of New York Mellon. And then lastly, well-known NFT collections will be featured in a new episode of The Simpsons coming out later this fall. It's the classic Treehouse of Horrors. The episode will feature Bored Ape Yacht Club, CryptoPunks, and Doodles, and the episode is due to come out over Halloween. On to crypto, BTC seeing a slight pullback to 29.8, ETH holding in the high 1800s, Solana mid-20s at 25.2, and Ape holding 2.1. Alt still doing well, while the majors seeing slight pullback. That is all, folks. Back to you.
Fantastic weather report as usual. Signal some other updates from the Nifty Daily Digest, which is the daily newsletter at thenifty.com. You need to have an account at thenifty.com to claim the free NFTs that we drop almost every day. So make sure you go to thenifty.com and create an account. CyberKongz announced Genkai, a 16,000 supply collection set to mint on July 27th with 9,000 NFTs available for sale at a price of 0.25 Ethereum each. And the remaining NFTs to be airdropped to existing holders with a 180-day vesting period, which can be unlocked early with a fee. So we'll definitely dive into that later on in the show. Bored Ape Yacht Club announced the end of Heavy Metal Forge Season 1. With final standings under review and introduced Season 2 updates, including new blueprints for tiles and decorations, a reset Season 2 leaderboard, and exclusive blueprints for verified Bored Ape Yacht Club, Mutant Ape Yacht Club, Bored Ape Kennel Club holders to be released later in the season. Last but not least, less than 1 week after launching, Jack Butcher's Opepin Threadition surpassed 50,000 mints, raising over $100,000 for Thread Guy in a movement that has taken over Twitter this week. Those are your updates from the Nifty Daily Digest. Before we dive into the actual story, I wanted to actually point one thing out. Someone in the comments on Twitter, on YouTube, actually pointed out turtle racing bars. So I know Kix knows this because Kix used to live on the west side of LA.
Oh, yeah, dude. I used to literally go to the place that created turtle racing, Brennan's, the kickball team, where I actually met my wife. Kickball team, after the kickball league, we'd go to Brennan's. They had $7 pitchers of Bud Light. And yeah, that's one of, like, if you think hamster racing is boring, go watch a turtle race. It's going to take a while.
There's a fish racing bar in San Diego I went to when I first got there, where they give you a straw and you actually blow behind the fish to try to get it across the finish line, you versus somebody else, and winner gets a Jello shot. It's free to compete in. They do it every Friday night in San Diego. This thing was electric. People crowd around, they're cheering, they're going crazy. People are creative.
Easy, you strike me as a real good fish blower.
Yeah, I'm a pro.
Yeah, at the turtle racing bars, the one that Kix is talking about, Brennan's, it's a very famous bar in LA. This is goldfish racing that Clemente has pulled up. By the way, I think all this stuff is pretty disturbing because it's like humans just using animals for fun. But anyway, the turtle racing, the one rule at Brennan's for the turtle racing is you're not allowed to point at the turtles. And you might be like, what is the deal with that rule? Like, why is that a rule? Like, why even mention that? I have a theory behind why it's a rule. The reason is you point at the turtles. That's the thing. So, like, you don't understand until you're actually there. But when you're there, you're going to point at the turtles. And then they're immediately going to point you out. And they're going to go, he pointed at the turtles immediately, because it's just this weird natural human impulse that you're going to point. And so when you point, I think they make you pay like $10 or something. So it's a way to make you make money because you're going to point at the turtles. I'm telling you, we have the video on now. Just look, someone's going to get trigger happy with their finger. They're going to point at the turtles. It's just a natural human impulse. And everybody's going to scream, that person pointed at the turtles. Anyway, if we integrate crypto tokens into the world of sports gambling and turtle racing gambling, I would not be surprised if it's literally just a productive direction for shitcoins altcoins to actually go in. I'm not even kidding. So first things first, let's talk about FEDNOW briefly, and then we can move on. The Federal Reserve has officially launched its FEDNOW instant payment service, enabling instant access to paychecks, timely bill payments, and swift government payments to individuals. 35 early adopters, including major banks like JP Morgan Chase and Wells Fargo, have already joined. As the Federal Reserve rolls out FEDNOW, it is also exploring the possibility of a CBDC, a central bank digital currency. What a shocker. Who could have seen this coming? Bitcoiners haven't been talking about this as an inevitable foregone conclusion for like over a half decade. Anyway, what do we make of this? Is this a surprise? I mean, it's not to me. Anybody have any insight into FEDNOW and what they think this is going to lead to?
It's happening quicker than I think people expected, even though FEDNOW has been in the works for like over a couple of years now. The thing that was most interesting to me about this, though, is that somebody came out and said that there's 4 private companies powering FEDNOW, and they're using XRP as the underlying tech. So kind of wild to see XRP win the lawsuit, get used by these private companies, and now the federal government is using that payment processing. And they processed a single penny for the first transaction, which they intend to open up to retail consumers. So basically, like how we use Venmo, Cash App, etc. I learned about another one in Canada. Like they don't use Cash App or Venmo in Canada. They have something else. I forget what it's called. I'll have to ask Frisk. But it's basically just like wire transfers, like a Zelle that the whole country uses that's instant. And I think this is going to open up similar. But then the other thing that's more concerning is the XRP platform is actually being tabled and piloted in Brazil. And because of this blockchain, all the tech is public, and there's some scrutiny around it because they can essentially turn off your money in Brazil, stop you from earning it, and actually just delete it. Like that's the bigger concern is like theoretically, this feels like an episode of Black Mirror where social credit score comes into play. And as your social credit score starts declining, they just turn your cash off.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the thing that I think is funny is that Bitcoiners have been talking about this for so long. People say it's a conspiracy theory. You're crazy. Then it happens and nobody acknowledges that it's been, talked about and pointed out that it's going to happen for over a half decade. And quite frankly, nobody still cares. Nobody's actually worried about FEDNOW. Nobody in the audience right now is scared of FEDNOW or thinks that it's potentially a big problem. No one thinks that there's going to be a social credit score system in the United States. And no one thinks that the government's going to just turn off your ability to spend money. It's just okay. Everything's okay. Spencer?
But this is the thing that I always struggle to wrap my head around with FEDNOW is like, I just don't understand how this is fundamentally any different from how wire transfers work, right? Like everyone's like, oh, you could turn off your money or whatever. Well, guess what they can do in your bank account right now today?
Yeah,
right?
but
They
wire
can go,
transfers
they can seize
are
money.
$15 fee for a wire transfer. You can't process them over the weekend. After banking hours, they don't process. So this allows for 24/7 support, which is like the bigger thing. Like that's the nice value add here is that like you could send the FEDNOW transfer and payment, which they say is going to basically eliminate that $15 fee for both the sender and receiver and can happen after business close hours and over the weekends. So it's an ability to give businesses financial like confidence at any time. Like they could receive a payment on Friday, send it to their supplier for Sunday, and then get that shipment Monday instead of now that supplier is waiting for that payment to process Monday or Tuesday and then ship Wednesday.
And totally like in that example as well, like, and like anyone who's ever bought a house, when you're trying to wire that money, it's something that you have to do at the beginning of the day rather than doing at the end of the day. And like when there's these large amounts of money going across, it is extremely stressful because you have like contracts closing and all these other third parties. And just like as well, if you're not if you're not in the United States, but you have a United States account and you're trying to get that money across, like say, for example, on the Friday and get it instantly on the weekend, those kind of money movements make a huge difference makes a huge difference for individuals. So personally, I see a huge difference between using the traditional banking system here and what FEDNOW can do for you as an individual if you need to move your money faster.
Spencer, you were going to comment on this.
Okay, so I guess the like instant payments part is super nice, but I don't think that like the being able to seize your money thing is any different from how money works today in a bank, right? Like if the government shows up and they're like, freeze his money, your money's frozen.
You are right. I think that the part about it for this is that it's a lot easier for them to do it. Like in the sense that if the entire payment rail system in the United States is singularly built on a CBDC /FEDNOW situation, it does feel easier to just press a button and turn off the ability to spend. Keep in mind, in China, you can't pay in cash in China, right? So it's fully digital. So that's, I mean, I know that we're close to that, but we're not all the way there.
Yeah, I think they also said that some of the concern is that basically like at the Fed level, when they have this like structure set up, they'll literally be able to like say you can't buy certain things like with the whole infrastructure. So like you can't buy ammunition, or you can't buy guns, or you can't buy, obviously you can't buy drugs, but you know what I'm saying is like they can very easily kind of like flip switches on the instead of like being like, oh, okay, let's shut down this individual person's bank account, or instead of being like, oh, okay, like let's coordinate with the banks to stop poker from people sending money into online poker, which happened in like 2011 or something like that. Instead, on their end, they can literally just like blacklist things they don't want you to buy. But as you said, Spencer, to your point, a lot of this stuff they have been able to do. Like they can go shut down your bank account. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think the question is like, what is a technical limitation versus what is a legislative limitation, right? And like right now, your money is in a bank who's basically held in like an Excel spreadsheet, right? Like technical limitations don't exist for shutting stuff down. What you're talking about, I mean, they could do, right? But would require legislation, but they could pass a legislation anyway, right? And so it definitely does, though. I think there is something to be said for like the really like the biggest argument, right, is not that FEDNOW exists, but if FEDNOW exists and then they use that to shut down like the banks, but that's just a process that I have trouble believing is really happening. Is like, is the government really going to go and shut down traditional banks and force everyone to use it? I mean, obviously, we talked about like in China, right? Like you go and everything's on WeChat Pay, right? And that's your bank account. That's just like everything happens that way. I don't think US is coordinated enough to get there anytime soon. Like I really believe in US governmental incompetency when it comes to like large scale stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, at the same time, I do know that the government has been getting bigger and bigger, and they're interested in getting bigger and bigger. Just saying, I don't think people really enjoy when we talk about this, because a lot of people think that it's not significant. Obviously, I beg to differ, but I think we can move on from it. We have a CyberKongz mint that is looking to raise over $3 million. This is the Genkai collection that was just announced. You know, CyberKongz has always been an interesting corner of the NFT space because these things were valued insanely high, right? Like insanely high. And they had the baby Kongs, and the earning was a banana token. Was that what they were earning? And everybody that got these made like $1 million. It was crazy. I never quite understood, because it's not like it's looked at like CryptoPunks. It's not like it's looked at like Bored Apes. I just don't understand how this corner of the NFT market caught fire the way it did when it did. And then now, you know, this mint, the 0.25 ETH mint, would be a massive success for CyberKongz in the sense that they'd raise $3 million. And I don't see why they wouldn't be able to do it given the previous success. What do you guys make of this mint?
That's kind of how I feel. I keep debating back and forth. It's got a lockup for 6 weeks where it won't cost any money. And we talked a lot about this on my morning show, just breaking down like pros and cons of lockups. And like, if you actually need money from a new mint, then why would you have a lockup that you could potentially give it all away for free? Or why not just reward it for free in general? I know that it's a 9K supply. The 7,000 CyberKongz and VX Kongs, I believe, get it for free already. But anybody who mints it can opt for a 6-week lockup and pay a fee to unlock it earlier at any given time, where it starts at 0.25 and decreases each day over that 6-week period. But to me, I'm like, this feels like an interesting gamified way to try to basically limit supply and secondary action. I'm just not a huge fan of it. I don't think, you know, like I've had a lot of internal dialogue with my brain and myself about like, is this a good move? Is this a bad move? How do I feel about it? What does it look like? And I think it's a new kind of mechanic where we've seen some of this too. Like Ether was supposed to do a 6-week lockup. I think that they've adjusted that as well. But this is like, I don't know. Like I just don't hear a lot of people talking about CyberKongz, and it's a 0.25 ETH mint.
An old project for sure. I mean, they're probably out of money, right? That people are gonna get mad if I said that, but I don't know if you would be trying to do a $3 million mint if you were flush with cash. But I remember it. It was like OG project back in the day. I mean, like CyberKongz went up to 100 ETH plus, right?
Which
like,
I never understood.
Well, am I right in remembering that CyberKongz was before BAYC?
Mm-hmm.
because that was the thing too, was like, I think what it was like, and people who are market participants now may not remember the time when like it really wasn't obvious that Bored Apes was going to be the big winner of the last cycle.
Punk's Comics was bigger than them when they started.
Yeah. I mean, even Cool Cats, right? There used to be like a really serious debate of like who is, and you know, I think like what
Almost 200 ETH.
yeah, when you saw apes pumping, it was CyberKongz was one of the more successful non-ape projects in the market at that time. So I think it was pretty hard to ignore.
But I also, as well, it was the community that formed at the time. There were a lot of OG people back in 2021 who then went on to go and build in the space and become sort of reputable. There were several large YouTubers as well at the time who were part of this community. So there was this like special CyberKongz lounge, which only you could get into if you were like an OG CyberKongz holder. And whilst that community has obviously changed over time, like there are still huge champions and people who absolutely love and adore CyberKongz. And it definitely has its own corner of NFTs where I think people on the outside looking don't really get it, but the people who are in it are absolute champions. So, I mean, I think this mint is a really high price for like given the current conditions, but potentially their own community could mint it out.
Yeah.
It just feels like, you know, all like, you know, we just obviously had the Pentoshi one as well, which was coming in at a really high mint price, and we've had Ether come at a really high mint price, and it just doesn't feel as if it was a sign of the times of what people want to do right now. People just want to have, you know, throw small amounts of money on a hamster and you know and you know and get 100x. Like if Bodogos is picking this up at easy, did you say like 10 cents, 1 cent? I can't remember.
It was like 2 or 3 cents when it was first
2 or
shared.
3
Literally
cents?
40 people watching the stream. It was so, I've never seen it so early from them. I was like, you guys are absolute degenerates, and I love it. Like this community is a blast because they just are active. Like when you monitor the market and find stuff that anybody can participate in at a low price, a lot more people flock to it. Like if CyberKongz dropped this at say 0.05, I think you'd have a lot more interest. At 0.25, you price out a lot of the people who don't like the speculation right now is that crypto will rise in price over the next 6 to 12 months. A lot of people are betting in that camp. So low cost, higher reward potential is where people are looking. And anything that's a high cost that they don't feel will 2x at minimum out the gate, they kind of shy away from. And like the hamster token was a perfect example. People were paying more in gas than they were paying for the token and were comfortable doing it because it had a 10x potential. Like the market cap was 100K, and at one point it hit 10 million. Like you had a clean 10x off that, you know, or 100x off that, which is crazy. So you throw $10 at it, you made $1,000. Like that's crazy.
It's absolutely
Bitcoins
crazy.
on
And
Solana are better because of the gas.
And I was, that's actually a very good point. Even gasless would have been even better. But like, you know, summer is that time in the market where I always say, if you look at the news, it's aubergine season. Like the biggest story on the front page is a farmer grew the biggest aubergine on record. Like that is where we are right now in the market because everybody's off on summer holidays and just enjoying being outside. And I think hamsters will always hit better than high price mints in these kind of conditions. And also, if you're trying to bring people back right now to be like, no, NFTs are interesting, you're not calling them up to say it's CyberKongz. You're calling them up to say, have you seen this hamster betting? So I think like a lot of these projects with high cost mints that are coming out now are just not in touch with how people feel about wanting to spend money.
No question, you're calling somebody up about hamster betting before CyberKongz. You can explain the hamster betting to someone. It's racing hamsters and you bet on it. And quite frankly, I feel like if I told 25 people on the street in New York that, like a decent amount would have at least a fundamental level of interest. 0 people would have an interest in the CyberKongz mint. Literally 0. Nobody would, because you can't explain it. Yeah, it's this OG NFT project. I don't know why it pumped in the first place. There's a token that the chart looks like this, and now they're going to try to raise $3 million selling another NFT. There is no explanation to a normal person. JackGK, you have your hand raised. What's going on?
Yeah, I think for me, the initial success was literally down to that banana token. I think it was the OG collection to yield a token, and that thing was like $100 for a single banana. And even the least rare ape or, you know, CyberKongz would basically generate at least 10. So you're talking $1,000 a day. So you can quickly see how people were doing that math to hit that 100 ETH target, thinking that that token was up only. And right now it was basically making, $1,000 a day, 100 day return on your investment sort of situation. I think for me, it always, when I'm looking at these projects trying to gain attention, if you're looking at the mint is the reason it finally comes onto like this show and other shows and to CC generally, that's really bearish to me. Like, you want to have heard something about the project and the new release way earlier than like a week before the mint. And you know, like, this space is fucking quiet right now. So even I think there was something the other day where someone posted the fact that about 10 different influencers all over CT were posting that $1 million sale on zombie punks and golden apes in comparison. Like, the whole timeline blew up with the exact same tweet. So it's not difficult to get attention right now. We're just not seeing it.
Interestingly enough, I looked at their Twitter. It looks like they're doing like a Ute style like application process. They say that they've received 40,000 applications. They also said that Gary V has been proven to be a worthy traveler, so they're going to let Gary V mint it if Gary V wants to. Easy. Who was the guy that the ETH influencer that went super hard on OK Bears?
Nate Alex or Nate Rivers or
Nate Rivers. Yeah, Nate Rivers. He was a CyberKongz OG. That guy,
OG CyberKongz guy. Like,
yeah,
he was I think he had the infamous post about him making like 15 million a month off Nana or something like that. That basically like Pico topped it.
Good times.
You just wanted to bring that up to say good times. Okay.
I was just thinking of like who I remember back from like that, because there was a decent amount of people like on Twitter that were influential and popular that were rocking the CyberKongz PFE.
I'm pretty sure like Alex, I want to say Alex Becker was a CyberKongz holder as well.
Yeah, I think
like they had some like pretty big names in that, you know, VIP lounge at the time, so the community was solid. But yeah, if a token's printing you $100 a day, the NFT, you know, back then would hit that floor price. And then I remember that was the summer where you then had NFT projects linked to a token and you could just make a ton load of money at the time.
Yeah, well, that was back when Alex Becker was still trying to make money himself before he sold the business for $100 million. Now he's actually just trying to live forever now that he has all the money. If you pay attention to Alex Becker's Twitter, there's a lot of posts that are just generally in the direction of trying to live forever. And I'm not exaggerating. But I guess the guy that sold Venmo, same deal, same thing. It's once you make, once you make $100 million bucks, the whole goal right now is try to live forever. Fun fact. One of the CEOs that I know on the Bitcoin side of a dope Bitcoin company put a tweet out today that was like, we're either the first adults right now are either the first generation or the last generation that before a significantly longer human lifespan. So basically everybody in San Francisco, everybody in Silicon Valley, all they're thinking about is like, how do I live to 250? Like, let's figure out how to go to 250.
I think all those people have some fucked up psyches. I think the cycle of life, man, you're supposed to die, dude. You try to cheat death, you know, that's not good, man. You cheating death, man. You're not going to see the other side or something like that, you know. Just saying.
The only way to cheat death is to have an invisibility cloak. Easy, you get the Harry Potter joke.
Oh yeah,
the other way,
all the way.
There's one for the Harry Potter folks out there. Look, Pentoshi, popular crypto Twitter figure, Easy was pointing this one out, actually failed to sell out the collection. I thought that was really hyped up and people thought it was going to cook. The collection did not sell out, or it was 0.2 ETH mint price. Is that right?
Yeah, 0.2. I think it was like 0.199 or something like that, called the Flightless Bird Space Agency. And I think they only sold like 3,500, maybe 4K at this point, and they're cutting supply today. So saying whatever it's going to be, this is just where it is. Of course, there was that viral tweet as well of people speculating Pentoshi sold his account like months ago, saying like his tweets are so much different than what he used to tweet. And yeah, this is like, to me, surprising, like genuinely surprising that they didn't sell out, because he's got a massive following. He had already teased like people building games with the assets and more. And I thought there'd be more excitement to it, but it seemed they sold about 2K right out the gate. Then it really started to slow, like really, really fast. And then immediately went down to 0.15. Has since had a little bit of relief, but it's kind of.
No one has any money in NFTs. Everyone's broke, dude. Azuki literally was the guy at the bar that like cleaned out like the last bit of liquor, and now you just got a bunch of drunks sobering up. It's rough.
Well, I mean, someone in the YouTube comments said tinfoil hat that Pentoshi sold his account, how is that tinfoil hat? People just literally make anonymous crypto accounts and they write tweets, and then literally just writing tweets, no video, no picture, no nothing. And then they end up, getting a big following. Why wouldn't a guy like that sell the account and then just make another account and do it again?
And then their syntax magically changes. Like they're like how they just speak at a fundamental level, like changes. People aren't done. They like people.
My favorite thing is that, everyone's sitting here doing emoji analysis. South Park really predicted this.
This guy has never used an eggplant emoji for the first year of his account, and now he's just dropping it all the time. So,
well, we did see 1 mint sell out. Garbage Friends sold out at 0.065 ETH, and the minters actually saw a little 2x, floors at 0.11. Some honest bear market gains. They have the similar mechanic to captains. Do we think that this can, have legs? I find it tough in this market for this one to have legs.
It's tough to say. I mean, you saw the passes that they were randomly dropping. Like you could mint like some of these 1K or 500 supply things from Random Character Collective, get a lot of volume out the gate. And we saw Invisible Friends get all the way up to 1 ETH. And now this is just kind of ugly. I'm not going to lie. Like they still have an additional supply, I believe, coming out. Delayed reveal mechanic. It's just not looking great, especially for the mid price.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Look, right now is that stat that NFT Statistics shared that we talked about, where it's like if you bought an NFT in the past 30 days, you're down $2,000 on the buy 90% of the time. That's the stat that says it all. There just is no pitch to get new people in the space. And keep in mind, this is what the bottom of a bear market looks like. How long we stay at this bottom, I have no idea. But, crypto OGs have seen this 2-3 times already. So this is nothing new, even though every single time people act like it's new. But it's really tough to pitch for selling NFTs. Quite frankly, the hamster gambling is literally like more interesting than anything else I've seen, because that can apply to karate combat. It's basically taking shit coins and leveraging them for gambling. If anything, they're not shit coins anymore at that point. They're just gambling tokens. And, when you really think about it, I was talking with Nick about this yesterday at dinner. The areas in this space are basically gambling, fine art, and video games at this point. So you got Yuga Labs making legitimate video games, like big time video game development. Obviously, Gabe Layden falls into that category with Limit Break. There's other entities that are doing legitimate video game development. Then you have fine art, people like Snowfro, Art Blocks. Keep in mind, Art Blocks has made like $100 million plus in revenue. It actually might be closer to 200 million in just a couple of years. Snowfro could have just kept all that money. Instead, he scaled it, built out a team, actually took venture capital, is really trying to do something special, make waves in the traditional art world for the sake of digital art. So you have that fine art side. There's a ton of other people you can bring up. Justin Aversano with what he's doing, so many people on the fine art side. And then you have the gambling side, Rollbit. I would put Karate Combat into gambling. It's sports combined with gambling, but those are kind of the 3 areas of NFTs, and the high-end collectibles market at this point basically falls into gambling, but then could transcend into fine art, in my opinion. I don't know if anybody has any, disagreement with me on that.
No, I saw a viral post actually about, they were talking about ETH. Someone had posted like, why would you fade Ethereum here when it's the easiest way to basically gamble on a decentralized blockchain? He's like, gambling transcends economic recessions. People always want to hit it big, and ETH is the easiest way for people to participate. And as that time goes on, that's only going to become easier for people to kind of like onboard and use the blockchain. So I was like, yeah, this actually makes a ton of sense. And we're starting to see more and more of these opportunities where, quote, gambling looks like it'll always have a value add when people want to speculate. Like, dude, meme coins in general are gambling, and people love to just throw money at them because you want that win. You want that story. You want the next Pepe, where people literally became overnight millionaires. And that's interesting to people and exciting and gets people really going. So I continue to look at that, and I'm like, what other innovative tech can actually incentivize and hyper incentivize gambling? Because like at the end of the day, there's some level of that in everything. Like, dude, even stocks to an extent are gambling. Yeah, sure. There's more technical analysis and underlying education that goes into like charts and everything else, but you're still gambling on price go up or down outside of your personal control.
Trading stocks is certainly gambling because you don't know whether the price is going to go up or down in like a, like when you buy Microsoft stock right now today, you don't know if it's a good price or not. You'll know in 3 years whether it was a good price or not. You can look back and be like, oh, it was a good price or it was a bad price, but you don't know right now. When you talk about ETH like that, you're basically talking about a bull case for ETH as a crypto development network. And at the same dinner, Nick pointed out that the thing that got him into Ethereum and got him excited about Ethereum was that he was working at a coffee shop and he just started chatting with a guy that was also working there. And the guy told him about Ethereum and presented it to him as like, it's like Bitcoin, it's a cryptocurrency, but it's a development platform, right? So people that are developers get excited about it and are building on top of it. And when Nick heard that, as a software engineer himself, as someone that saw Facebook blow up after Facebook implemented a development platform, he got super duper excited. So if you if you talk to software engineers, some of the first people I worked with in the NFT space were software engineers that were giga bulls on Ethereum because they said it's the strongest development community in crypto. Like if you talk to people in the tech world, in the software engineering world, they love to hear that. They really understand that narrative. Kix, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this because I'm in the gaming space, but there's a very gray area between like what's gambling and what's a game of skill.
Yeah.
For some people, like doing futures on Rollbit or buying options on E-Trade is gambling because they don't know what they're doing and they don't have a long-term win rate. But like, for example, poker, a lot of people think poker is gambling, but for professional poker players, that is a game of skill. That is a competitive game of skill that they're engaging in. And I think that we're just going to continue to head in that direction more and more because games that are solvable, where all of the information is known, are going to over time just be overrun by computers, bots, and AI. I mean, a human hasn't beaten a poker computer engine in over 20 years, right? Like, because that game is solved, right? What attract people to these types of things is that it is unsolvable because it's based on unknown future outcomes, right? And I think that we're going to see just a lot more convergence in that space because humans are going to feel like that they can compete in that. Like, for example, daily fantasy sports. You can have an AI engine that feeds in all of the golf data and statistics and everything like that and tells you who to bet on for the British Open or how to make your daily fantasy lineup for the British Open. Guess what happened? Day one, the scorecard, the top 5 were names most people have never heard of before. It wasn't any of the best golfers in the top 5. Humans are going to increasingly like those types of games because the games that are just easily solvable are going to just be overrun by computers, even more so than they are today.
I think that's interesting. I do want to point out, though, I feel like I couldn't start like a poker league without a gambling license, I'm assuming, right? I can't just be like, it's a sport, it's a skill-based game, right?
Yeah, there is some regulation around it.
You can run your own poker. You can run your own poker table out of your house with no problem. The issue is if you're taking a rake.
Yeah, as long as you don't take a rake.
Got it. Okay. I saw one comment pointed out, someone said, and I think it's a good comment, but I want to point out my opinion on the comment. Someone said, I wonder if in the early 2000s, people that were buying Beanie Babies, and then after like the Beanie Baby bubble burst, a nice alliteration there, whether they felt that that was the bottom of a bear market. That's an individual collectible. And you're talking about the collectibles market. And obviously that was the bottom of a bear market for collectibles, because then come 2020, you see Charizard cards selling for $100,000. My friend was participating in basketball cards. He bought a Kevin Durant card for like $80, sold it for $800, thought he was a genius, then watched sales ramp up to $2,500, literal Bored Ape style, obviously without the same scale. So I was not saying that this is the bottom of a bear market and every individual NFT collectibles collection will come back in price, but undoubtedly there will be another day where NFT collectibles are actually in demand, where a new person off the street actually wants to buy an NFT, whether or not they call it an NFT or it's referred to as an NFT. That's not what I'm saying, right? But it'll be a blockchain-based collectible. Undoubtedly, I can go ahead and tell you that's going to happen. And keep in mind, after Bitcoin crashed 3 times in the past, 4 times in the past. Every single time, people said Bitcoin was never going to come back. It was a casino. There was no fundamental value, this, that, and the other thing. JackGK has, Clemente, real quick before I throw to Jack.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to add here is like, I was just, for example, I was looking at the Moonbird's Mythic reveal yesterday. I was like, dude, these are super cool. I love the reveal process, but there was no motivation for me to buy any of it because I have so much like PTSD from the last month of me buying pinto beans and losing like $200 in one day that I'm like, dude, what's the point of me buying this thing if in one day it could, like, the price could just get destroyed? So it's just like, and I think most of us right now and most of the listeners feel that way as well. Is like, why would you buy something if you've just seen the price of it go down every single day? Even something that's stable now is like, hey, that's a value add if if the floor price of your project is not going down.
Well, here's the thing that was interesting about that, right? Because like I think Moonbird's Mythics is awesome art, and I think it's arguably some of the best art we've seen in a really long time, and it really has just seemed. But I agree with you, Clemente. Does that matter? And like, this is interesting because, you know, you may look at something like, you know, what happened to Azuki and say art really matters, right? And then you say, okay, you know, the elementals, right? Elemental shows that art really matters. They crushed it. I think there's no way you can look at this and say they didn't crush art here. But the thing is, okay, for the failure of elementals was in the art. I don't know that an art is enough to save here what Proof is trying to do, because the critique of Proof has nothing to do. I mean, at some point, the critique of Proof had something to do with the art, right? Like there was the whole CC0 thing. I'll argue that Moonbird's actually like wasn't great pixel art, but was an artist who was trying pixel art for the first time, was a pretty good stab at that. And it doesn't shock me that Mythics is epic, right?
Yeah, the
really
CCO
good,
thing. The CCO thing wasn't actually about the art, though, right? It was about they were like, why is this coming out of the blue? This seems like a haphazard decision, right? It wasn't like the art sucks now.
Exactly, right. And this is the thing where like you have to be making, and this is where like, you know, Azuki made all the right communications, I think, leading up, and then just like flopped on the thing they delivered. Proof delivered something pretty good and made all the wrong communications. And it's just frustrating to watch this stuff play out in the market, because it's like, okay, is this a fundamental issue with this asset class of what's going on, or are like individual companies making mistake after mistake? This is the thing that I think is really tough in this market right now, is like, it's not hard to point to each of the big companies in the space and say, these are the specific mistakes they've made that have been very large, right? And is that a failure of the technology, a failure of what's going on? Or is it a failure of teams? Like, it may just be true that in the last market, the top teams had everything to do with when they came into the market and not what they were doing. And, you know, I was talking to a friend of mine who was really early on YouTube. He was one of the big early YouTubers. He's maintained a YouTube presence. He's maintained a TikTok presence, really big, really, really big. Even as a Netflix show. And he was saying, like, he told me 2 years ago, bull market, he's went to an NFT event in NFT LA, and he said, look, this reminds me of early YouTube. He's like, most people here were right place, right time. In the next cycle, those people are going to get replaced by actual professionals that will come in. Yeah. Right. And that's the cycle of what YouTube was. If you were early on YouTube, you were great, but there were so many early YouTubers, he's like, who are on the streets of Hollywood Boulevard in LA, like, doing their catchphrase for like spare change, right? He's like, that's what happened to a lot of them. And what happened was the early adopters were full of people who were like kind of kooky out there early, you know, great, but they weren't the real professionals. And so the question is, undoubtedly, I think in my mind, there will be real professionals in the NFT space. The question is, were they part of this early adoption phase, or do they come in the second phase? When I'm going to start getting really excited, and I think this is what you should be looking for, is we haven't seen current projects do battle yet with projects from the next cycle. You could maybe argue that that's Captains. You could maybe argue that that's Pudgies. But where these teams will be really battle tested is when they're up against a competitor that isn't themselves. And by the way, they're not winning against themselves currently. So if you can't, you know, I remember when I was learning tennis, the first thing my tennis instructor said was, you need to be able to serve a perfect, you know, enough games and get it in the box enough times before you can play somebody else, because you need to not lose to yourself before you take someone else's time to play them, right?
Well, Clemente likes that D1 tennis talent. Go ahead, Spencer.
I was just going to say that, like, NFT projects need to stop losing to themselves as the enemy before they think they can compete with others.
One last thing there. I 1000% agree, Spencer, on what you're saying. Like, from my perspective, as Pio and I've been working on like the YouTube side of things and like trying to learn how to do these different aspects of it. I had this big moment like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I realized like basically for the last 2-3 months, I've been operating on like, okay, how do we become the #1 media company in this space? How do we create the best content in this space? And I'm like, dude, you should be competing and measuring yourself against the actual YouTubers that have millions and tens of millions of views. It's like those are going to be the people that ultimately you need to be battle tested against. And I think that's what happens a lot in this space is like we're comparing the competitors in this space to what they're doing. And a lot of them, like, they're not going to be able to operate against, like, at the end of the day, Pudgy Penguin should be competing against the Barbies of the world, right? That's their competition at the end of the day. It's not some Joe Schmo down the road that's dropping an NFT, a 10K NFT collection that's never made a toy in their life.
Exactly. And, you know, Spencer said, well, Spencer's pointing out, you know, that the teams might stick around. Who are the top teams from the 2017 ICO boom? Who are the top teams for that?
Filecoin, Bat, Tezos.
Yep.
I think that's it. Those big three.
3, 4, 5, right? Out of how many?
Ethereum Max, I think, was in that. That turned out to be a rug. Yeah, I think 3. I think the number I read was like 99.997%, something like that.
Yeah, there are a few teams that made it out of that, but most of it was just BS, right?
Well,
and the people, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, who's around from the early 2000s tech.com boom?
A few teams. Well, probably not the same teams, but the companies that those teams made.
Oh, yeah. Oh, actually, this is an incredibly good point. And something that I think is very interesting is one of the things when I was taking some courses at Booth, the business school at Chicago, right? One of the most interesting statistic they said was that the #1 correlated factor, if you're a startup, from getting your Series A funding to you actually exiting for a profit to the investors was if you replaced executives at Series A. That was like the #1 correlated thing. And so this is another thing that I think we will see more of is I'm very curious about this like M&A, about replacing executives. You know, I think about this for like various projects, right? Like what would happen if you have a new executive? The challenge here is that there's so few people with any relevant experience to become executive of an NFT company, right? You know, it would be interesting to me to see if we have executives from one NFT company leave to go run another. I don't think we'll see that. We might, there's a weird community element there, but like, that's kind of what happens in tech, right? Like the people that go from 0 to 50 are not the people who go from 50 to 100, right? And that's, you know, the only team that we've really seen do that is Yuga Labs. You know, we have the original founders of Yuga Labs are not the CEO. And that's not, people critique them a lot for that. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
Oh, it's not a bad thing either at all. And one other quote from Nick at dinner last night was that 80% of venture funded businesses are eventually not run by the founders, which is exactly what you just said, basically, right? 80%.
Well, but it makes sense though, right? Because the thing is, like, in the early days, right, you want to be scrappy, you want to break the rules, you want to do hacky things, you got to be a jack of all trades, master of none. You're answering customer service, you're, you know, hiring, but like then you scale, and most of your job is hiring people and team management, right? And then managing the corporate like P&L of a company and spending like millions of dollars, right? And those are completely different skill sets. And it's almost also true that not only are they separate skill sets, but the skills that you need to do one are detrimental to what is useful in doing the other, right? And so this is where you have this early founder issue. And one of the challenges too is that one of the big hallmarks of often successful early founders is a lot of confidence, blind confidence, hubris, one might even say.
Irrational confidence.
Irrational confidence, right? And that irrational confidence, that hubris can often make it really hard to transition. And so this is where you see project founders wanting to go down with the ship versus transitioning to someone who can actually keep it afloat, right? And that's the really scary and dangerous death spiral. And this is also where like you have to look, and this is, if a company has done a venture round, there's a lot more things that can be done. Because the truth is, if you haven't done a venture round and you want to death spiral your company to go down with the ship because you can't admit that you have the problem, guess what? You can just do that, right? Because you own the company. But if you're doing that in a venture-backed company, the venture investors can step in and remove you, right? And so this is where people talk a lot about, is VC good or bad? I like seeing VC because that usually means there's a board of directors, and a board of directors means you can remove the CEO, and that aligns incentives where the CEO can't do like dumbass shit.
Yeah, I mean, I bring this up on the show all the time, and I feel like I get pushback on it, but I feel the same way as you. Think about it from like Kix's perspective. Kix has a venture-funded crypto gaming studio, and Kix is crushing it, trying to get it to the next level. Let's say Crypto Raiders becomes a $200 million company. You got to think that, let's say there was someone that had 30 years experience in game design, and he designed World of Warcraft. It probably benefits Kix when Kix got the company to 200 million bucks. Probably bring in the World of Warcraft guy to run some stuff. I don't know. Kix is probably just like, nah, man, I'm gonna run it. I'm the World of Warcraft expert. But you know what? Kix goes, I'm out.
No, for sure. I mean, that's the cycle of life. The people that are good at taking something from 0 to 1 often are not the best at taking it from 1 to 100. That's just how the world works.
Straight up.
What a smart comment. If only someone else had said exactly that comment, but with the number 50 instead of 1 earlier in the stream.
Same comment, different numbers, man. What I will say, Spencer, is Kix used 1 to 100, 0 to 1 and 1 to 100. I like that use of numbers.
But he's doing it because he's quoting Peter Thiel, who's the original one of saying that. That was actually
exactly. Yeah, good book too.
I like it. JackGK, you got your hand raised. What's going on, amigo?
Yeah, look, I completely agree with what everyone's saying there. I think one thing to take note of is the fact that actually surprise is more powerful than just actually delivering on something. Like in terms of dopamine, I don't know the exact science, but it's like been proven that if you surprise someone with an event, in comparison to if you just tell them about the event, for some reason, the surprise side takes basically gives you more of a kick, gives you actually more excitement. But then what comes with that is if you continuously basically renege on that surprise or that event that you've told someone about, perfect example being you tell your girlfriend or your partner that you're going to go on holiday this year, and then for whatever reason you end up having to pull out of the holiday, you're too busy at work. Over time, the receptors that basically get that excitement and enjoyment basically dull, to the point that when you do eventually go on that holiday, the partner is actually not excited in the slightest. It doesn't give them any kick. And I think that's where we are. We're all that disappointed partner in the NFT space currently, where we've just been told something is going to be great so many times because of this surprise factor that if they do pull it off, gives you a more dopamine kick, but they've actually failed so significantly now that we just attribute that to the whole market. So where Clemente was talking about beans before and how that is now, concerning him with going into mythics, that's actually science. There's actually real science behind that, and it's about dopamine receptors and the fact that even if it does win, you may just be well, I've lost so many times. Yeah, it takes a long time to get that back. So that's what my thoughts on that.
I like the little dating analogy. Those are always really good. Clemente?
Yeah, I got cheated on for sure. I went to that show Nick was talking about yesterday, and my partner cheated on me. He was making out with some random, or she was making out with some random dude, and it wasn't AI. I'll tell you that.
Sorry, Kix?
I said a little Freudian slip there.
Well, there you go. Look, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. It's Friday. Go outside and, as they say in the crypto space, touch grass. If it's your first time listening, we got the free NFT, Clemente?
No free NFT today.
No free NFT today, ladies and gentlemen. Touch grass this weekend. If it's your first time listening, we run this show Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 10:15 a.m. Eastern time, each and every week. Not going anywhere. Show's also available on YouTube if you want to see the video feed with all of us talking. That's available on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. There's also shorts on the YouTube channel of content that isn't always NFT related. Beyond that, the show's available on Apple and Spotify podcasts.